get it to play on the beat with the metronome click. And once you have that, you can do whatever you want to put it together with the rest of the sounds in your track. So come on in, say hi, let me know where you're from, let me know what you're doing. What, you know what I want. I want to know if you can hear me and see me and hear the music. So we can be connected in the chat. Looks like my chat window is up. And, hello? Where'd my audio go? What did that just happen? Okay. Yeah, Felix is here. Hey, how you doing? And in my Ableton program. Oh. I must have pressed stop or something like that. So yeah, how you doing? Thanks for the feedback on those graphics. I'm starting the 74 creative strategies for electronic music producers as a bunch of lessons like this where we're going to do live video and we're going to make Ableton projects and you're going to be able to download the Ableton projects. I'll talk about that later. Let's go into the lesson. So this might be basic for some of you, but some people are asking about warping, and I've always seen questions in other groups where, like, if people are working on a remix and it's hard to, you know, get it to sound right. So let's see how that works. What do you need to do for warping? Well, here's a basic session where I opened up live, and I haven't done anything yet except drag some tracks in. Radu's here, Yurka's here. Cool, hey guys. So this is a basic template Ableton project. I opened it up. When you start, you're going to be at 120, and it's going to sound like that. You can hear my metronome and everything. And here's the problem. I want to work with this track, and let's say I want to layer in a beat, right? So I've got, oh my gosh, right away that's off. And then what if I want to bring in this drum beat? Well, that's not playing with the beat, and this is not playing with the beat, and nothing's playing together at all. It sounds awful. It sounds terrible. I don't want you to listen to that. So a couple things we have to do. First, we have to take this piece of music and get it to be on the beat with the metronome. We're going to change the metronome basically to find that tempo. And then we're going to find that track and bring that in. So an example of how to do, why I would do this is, like, let's say I had this piece of music here. Maybe somebody gave it to me and they said, yeah, I like this track. I just want a new boom bap beat on there, you know? Or maybe you have a bass line, just a bass line, or you sample a record and you want to add in some new beats or something like that. You know, there's a lot of reasons why you need to warp things. So what do we start with? I'm going to show you how I set up controls so this is a lot easier to do because it's hard to do when you're clicking the mouse. So the first thing I did is I put the M key on the metronome so I can turn that on and off and hear it together with the track. Second thing, I'm going to put T on tap tempo. So when I'm listening to this unwarped audio, I can tap in my metronome tempo and hear it. And then it's always a little hard to get the metronome dialed in right. So I'm going to put Z and X on these tempo, the phase nudge, up and down. And these are handy. So I can make the metronome move. So watch how this works with just, and I'm just using keyboard controls here. You don't have to have pad controllers or anything. So I'm going to play the metronome. We're going to listen to the metronome, guys. How you like that? Press play, metronome on. All right, I just tapped out a slow beat with the T tempo key, the T key, and now I don't know if you can hear that speeding up a little bit or speeding up or down. These nudge buttons are really cool. The longer you hold it, the more it speeds up. So if I hold that down, oh, if I hold that button down, it makes my phone ring. Oh my gosh, Sony Brasco, I can't talk to you right now. Happy to get a phone call, but not from that. Sorry, I turned my phone off. So these phase nudge keys are really cool. And if you're ever beat matching, these are how to get like the micro timing control. If you know if you're beat matching vinyl, sometimes you have to drag your finger on the edge of the platter a little bit to slow it down. That's like phase nudge down. Sometimes you take the spindle in the middle and twist it and push it faster. That's like phase nudge up. It's really micro control, great for beat matching. So what am I going to do? I'm going to play this track. I'm trying to warp this track and figure out what BPM it is. So I'm going to play the track, listen to it, tap the tempo. That's step one. And I'm watching up here in the global tempo. It looks like it's coming in around 100. And notice I'm not even listening to the metronome right now. I'm just tapping to make sure I hear the music and tap on the tempo. So now I'm going to turn the metronome on and start. And an important thing you have to do, here's a mistake. The start marker is not at the beginning of the music file. So when I press play, the metronome is going to beep on the first as soon as I press play, but it's not going to be at the start of the track. Hear that at the beginning? That's a problem. That's going to drive you crazy. The very first thing you need to do, make sure your start marker is exactly, and I mean exactly in on the beginning of the beat. By the way, in production land, this is called a zero crossing. We have the waveform going up and down, and the center line is 0 dB. Up above it is loud, below it is loud, 0 is no sound. So if you have your start marker up here in the middle of a waveform, you're going to get a click. I want you to hear that because that's important for audio editing. Well, I don't know if that example plays it very well, but anytime you're moving a start or ending marker, find the nearest little crossing where there's a 0, where the waveform crosses the center line. That's how you get the cleanest edits. So it could be right there, could be right there, could be right there, could be right there. In Sampler, there's an option called Snap that'll snap to the 0 crossings. Use that because that's how you make your samples so they don't click, so they sound clean. And now when I press play, the metronome is going to start exactly at the same place where the track starts, and we'll be able to see if we're near the right BPM. Okay, it's nearby. Let's let it play a little bit. The longer the track goes on, the more the metronome is going to be out of sync. So let's say I had this in at like 97. You can hear that as we go on longer, it gets off. 97 is close. Let's say I was at 98. I was close. Let's play from the beginning again and hear how the metronome drifts. Oh, first couple of beats. Hey, I'm in there. I'm on the groove, right? Wrong. Now I could try and catch it up a little bit with the nudge. So that's where the nudge comes in. And if you're having to nudge the metronome to get it faster, you know that your start time is not, your starting tempo is not right. So let's put this up to 99. I'm going to press it again. I'm going to play it again and press the nudge up and down to get it nearby the right tempo. Sounds good at the beginning. Up, starting to drift. A little bit of nudge to keep it in the groove. Okay, if I have to keep nudging it up, that means the tempo is too low. Oh, I better put it up. Let's put it up to like 102. That's probably right. Right, let's see. Yeah, it's on the groove. It's on the groove. Oh no, my metronome is too fast. Now I have to slow down the metronome to stay on the beat. So what I'm doing right now, believe it or not, I'm beat matching Ableton to go with the tempo of this audio file. And the reason I do this, it's a really useful skill to do it. If you just came in, what I did was I set up a couple of little keys. I put M on the metronome so I can turn that on and off. I put T on tap tempo and Z and X on phase nudge. When I'm playing with another DJ, it could be a vinyl DJ, it could be a tractor DJ, it could be anybody. This is how I do it if I'm going to come in with Ableton on top of their music, because they're not going to look at me and be like, Steve, I'm playing at 124 BPM. No, I can't even see their computer screen, and they might not even have one. So what I have to do is listen to their music, tap the tempo to get it nearby, and then use my phase nudge to get my Ableton to be on the beat with their music, whatever it is. You know what I'm saying? So you don't, this is for beat matching Ableton to make it play along with something you're listening to. So this unwarped audio represents, it could be a band with a live drummer, it could be a vinyl DJ, it could be somebody else. We're learning how to get the metronome to beep at exactly the right tempo as the audio. That might sound backwards because warping is all about, when you turn on the warp switch, it takes this audio and matches it to the metronome, okay? So you could bring in any audio in the world, you could put your session at 500 BPM, take in a drum loop and make it play at 500 BPM because warping is gonna warp the audio and make it match the metronome. But to really get the concept of warping, if you want this track to play back in a natural way and have the right warp markers and the right groove, you really got to find the metronome, find the BPM of what that track is supposed to be. That's the hard part. After that, everything else is easier. So we're up at 102. A nice little secret about electronic music is that it's usually on a specific BPM. It's not going to be like 98.46 or something like that. It's going to be like 99 or 100 or 110 or whatever. And We were working with the phase nudge. And since that was drifting a little bit, I'm going to put this in at 100, make sure my start marker is exactly on the downbeat of the track. Now let's listen. Let me know if that makes sense about beat matching. Type in like BPM if you understand why we are warping with the metronome like this. All right, we're doing good. We're like 20 seconds in. Beat is still locked. I'm starting to think it's a 100 BPM track. Yeah, we're good. That's 100 BPM. So now that the global tempo is on at 100, I can warp this, turn it on. Segment BPM is 100. Now, if you buy a track and it says that it's at, 127, you can drag it in, hit the warp switch, type in the tempo when you know the tempo, and you'll be good to go. But that was not the case right here. So now, oh yeah, we've got the track is warped, the start marker's in the right place. We're all done, right? No, we are not all done. The next step is to tell Ableton exactly where the beats are happening in this piece of music. If you hit the warp switch and the start marker is at, you see in the timeline here, there's 1, 1.2, 1.3. These are your metronome clicks. So it's going to be a boop, boop, boop. You have to not only move your start marker to make it play right, but to really get this to work, I do a right click and I put set 1.1.1 here. That tells Live that this audio chunk, this transient, is the first beat. Let's put the loop marker there to start. Now, when the metronome clicks, it's going to be clicking on each beat. And we can see it. How cool is that? And a big clue for this is you don't have to go and warp every single beat. Like if this was off, I'm not going to go here and be like, put in a marker here. Like I'm not going to go like that. What I like to do is skip out to the end of the file and check how the warping sounds back out there. Now I want to make sure Ableton is starting on an actual beat, not in the middle. So I'm going to put my master quantizing up to 1 bar, global quantize up to 1 bar. That way when I click in the audio file, it's going to start on a downbeat of a bar, not in the middle of a chunk. Okay, right here at the downbeat of 33. That is pretty close to a bass bump. You can see like the drum beats, the wave is like a bump where there's a beat. I'm not sure what the beginning of the drum beats look like. I want to look at the first one and see what is the shape of this actual wave, audio wave. What does it look like at the beginning of a beat? It goes down a little bit and then up a little bit. Let's look at another one and see. I want to recognize what that looks like, zooming in and zooming out. And I'm looking for the first place it's significantly different from before. This is like a kind of jumpy wave going like that, and then boom, and there's this little part right there. So if I can go out to the end of the track and put in 1 warp marker, that might be enough to keep the whole thing in sync. So I go over to here. It looks like this whole waveform has these little 2 buzzy little things. And then this big dip right there is the actual beginning of the beat. So I might take that and just drag it back a tiny little bit. Now let's listen again. All right, Andy's asking a question about what's the accuracy needed on BPM. For example, a not electronic sample, like a live, a brass loop or something like that, where there's a natural drift, what accuracy do you need on the BPM? In that situation, what you need to do is find, not to quantize every single little beat, but find the really important ones and grab those. So here we are on bar 17. Let's bring that back a little bit. Let's see if I can give you an example. I'm going to make a new track and grab a sound from something that's not an electronic drum break. What would be the right one? What about these Soviet grooves? I think these are from vinyls, all right? Huh. Bow, 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 bow. Okay, that's a nasty break. Here's one that I suspect is not from an electronic device, and it's not, I don't know, it automatically warped it at 90. Let's unwarp this and just listen to what we got. And it doesn't start on the downbeat. It's like upbeat, boom, da, doom, ba, doom, ba, doom, ba, loop, da, doom. Okay, so let's, what would I do with this beat? And this was our starting downbeat, was that third pulse. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, loop, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, doom. That's a cool break. So I'm going to turn on the warp switch, double click, make a little warp marker right here on the beginning of that beat, and let's not make that sloppy. Let's make it super neat. Put the warp marker there. And now the crucial element, right click, bar 1, beat 1, and let's drag the loop brace right here. And let's play the clip. Aha, we got drift. The metronome is drifting. Did you hear that? Winged Point says good luck, right? 2, 3. So when I'm listening to this and counting out loud, 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 4, 2. It's not that hard to count along with a drum beat. It's a pretty natural human thing to be like, oh, I can hear it, I can clap. 1, boom, boom, boom. That's natural. So all we're trying to do now is get our Ableton skills to beep the metronome as naturally as we can clap along with the drummer. 2, 3, 4. What I'm looking for, 2, 3, 4, boom. Visually, I'm looking for the exact drum beat where it loops. I'm going to put a marker there and listen again and check it. And I'm asking the question, does that warp marker happen exactly where the loop happens? 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, doom, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 2, 2, boop. I don't know if we get another one at the end. So that's what the audio file is doing, but in Ableton land, the metronome is beeping where those visual markers are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, and then 3. So the exact problem we have right here is that the audio file, we hear the downbeat of 3 right here, but Ableton hears it over here. So how do you fix that? It's so awesome. Just like stretching a rubber band. Metronome on, let's listen. Oh no, and then we get Psycho Drummer. Oh, all right. So our first loop worked, but the second loop did not work at all. It sounded like monkey ass. We got to find the downbeat at the end. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 2, 2. Oh, you guys, you know what? I think that last psht, that extra piece at the end, that might be the downbeat where the loop goes. So they basically cut this loop so it loops around and then comes back at the beginning. So we didn't actually lose the end of the loop. That's good news. Good news. We didn't lose the end of the audio file, but we got to stretch this end so the beats are hitting in the right spot. Let's try that again. So we don't have an ending drum beat. I can't drag the big drum beat to the downbeat of bar 5 to make a 2-bar loop. So what I have to do is find something else to anchor my warp markers and drag one of those other ones. I recommend the 2 and the 4. The snare drum hits 1, 2, 4, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2. Let me know if you get what I'm talking about with 2 and 4. Question from Tom: are you deliberately keeping it in beats? You know, I didn't even talk about warp markers yet. There are good reasons to use each of these different modes. A lot of times I leave it in complex. Repitch is the most natural one if you're working with like vocals or something or moving records. But beats is kind of fun. And these are drum beats. So yeah, for this track, probably the best thing to do would be repitch mode. Do I want to do repitch mode? Because I wanted to find the tempo of this track and play my Ableton session at the BPM of this track. Repitch is not good if we're like... I love electronic music so much. What a weird sound. Repitch is going to change the pitch. So if you're taking a full audio song, like a remix or something, and playing it back at its natural speed, repitch is going to be the smoothest, most accurate form of warping because it doesn't make any little chops or glitches or anything. But like when I'm taking another piece of audio and stretching it to match the wrong tempo or not the original tempo, repitch is not good because then it's going to slow down and be like, ooh. So that's a good question about warping modes. Right now, so what I'm trying to do with this beat, the Soviet Grooves sample pack, I'm looking for a warp marker to stretch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2. So in the drum loop, that warp marker is on the 2 beat. 4, 2, 2, 3, 4. You know what I'm saying? 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. 2, 2, 3, 4. So right after this one, that little marker is pretty close to where the metronome hears the 2. That line where it says 3.2 is where the metronome is going to click for the 2 beat. And then later on, the next 2 beat, where we listen to the audio file, I put a marker right where we hear that 2 beat. That's farther away from the 4.2. So to make this easy, I can take this one, stretch it over to there, take this one, stretch it to there, and let's listen again and see if we got something that sounds like a beat. And we are not quite there yet. Watch when I'm moving these loop braces, right? Down here in the loop length field, we want that field to be an even number, and we want it to be something like 1, 2, 4, 8, something like that. So let's have a 4-bar loop. It's not longer than that. And somehow we're going to make this loop so that when it comes around to that crash at the beginning, it still sounds right like music. So let's let that loop, see what we get. How's my volume today, by the way? Do you need the music louder? What is at the end of this? Let me know if you want the music louder. That might be a little bit off. Yeah, this is kind of a tricky loop to work with. Okay, and that would be there. Doomp. Yeah. We're going to force it a little bit. I'm going to make the loop brace 4 bars because I know this has to be 4 bars long. And I'm just going to squish all that stuff in there and see if we can speed up that drum break. Well, that didn't work. Now I'm going to just stretch it out until I get the turnaround that sounds right. Boom, ba, 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 ba. And it's like syncopated at the end. Let's try that. That sounded better. The drum fill sounded like it was at a natural speed. There we go. So we actually have options with this loop. One of them can turn around and use that crash at the beginning. Or let's take the loop and have the loop return to the beginning part. We're going to ignore that cymbal crash, and we're going to have this continue all the way out to bar 5. How do I see that? There it is. So from 1 to 5 is going to be 4 bars. The math on this was always confusing for me because from 1 to 4, I would think it goes to number 4, but it doesn't. It goes to number 5. 5 minus 1 is 4. We're not starting at 0. We're starting at 1. Don't get confused about the math. How does it sound with the loop that turns around like this? Volume's good. Thanks, Andy. Yeah, you hear that? We got it. Now, let's bring in our track and see what we got at 100 BPM. Wait for the downbeat. Yeah, that loop is a head fuck, right? Let's go back to the other one and hear how that crash goes. Boom. Bam. Right there. What would I really do? What would I... If I really wanted to remix with this, I'd go for my... Check it out. As soon as I cut the kick drum out of the other original, I get all that boom bap coming out of here. Boom, boom. And I got a new track. I'm pretty proud of that. I did not expect that drum loop to be that hard. That was hard. Having that crash cymbal. Yeah, what idiot puts the end of the sample at the beginning, right? You gotta know. And I was like saying my prayers this is gonna work out because I'm just kind of improvising here. But this is cool. So now we have two options where it's like the loop that continues through with that drum break gives us a at the end. But maybe you don't want to hear that every time around. Maybe you want some variation. So sometimes you can hear the ksh at the beginning, and sometimes you can hear the roll. You turn off the metronome, let this play for a second, save to the hard drive. Yeah, that's totally working. I'm digging it. Let's just check out this one other beat. Oh, that sounds like a RZA beat, right? That chop snare. Psht. Are we on track? Oh, no, we are not. Well, let's see what the Ableton genius brain wants to do with this. I turn on the warp switch. Before I even listen to it, I want to zoom in and check my starting point. Is that the beginning of the sample? I guess probably it is. Let's find out. Turn on the loop and play. And that was easy. I mean, that was done. I think. This looks like it's kind of a little tiny bit late. Remember about 0 crossings? The beat is actually right there. This is kind of a micro timing issue. A lot of times, hard quantized beats don't sound the most human. Look at the 2 and the 4 where the snare drum hits are. And Ableton is cool. It just, you put the mouse up, it highlights a potential transient and you can double click on it. It didn't used to do that. Like in live early versions of Ableton, you didn't do that. So this is really cool. But check out where the actual drum hits are landing. So the 2 hits are a little late. Right? Let's tighten these up and see if it's better. I'm gonna like manually quantize this beat. It's a short loop, so we can do that. I want to compare the feel of having hard quantized beats, meaning everything's happening exactly right on the metronome click. Loop, put you on there. What about the hi-hats too? Hi-hats have a lot of vibe in them. And I don't love going through marker by marker, but it's useful for illustration right now. Sneak that one on there. You get good with the double clicks, I'll tell you that much. And then we're gonna listen to the original one versus this super quantized one and see which one we like better. Okay. That's the quantized beat. Now let's go to the loose beat. Do you hear that? Let me know if you hear that difference with the quantized. Type in like loose or something. It's subtle. I think I like the low end on track 2. So before this gets crazy noisy, I'm gonna drop a high pass filter on track 3 just to get those beats working a little better. Ooh, Andy May. What happened to my audio? Oh, end of the track. Huh. So you think the tight one is better, huh? That could be because the original has a straight kick drum on 4/4, like, you know, like boom, 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 boom. So if everything in the micro timing of this track is like that, then yeah, I think you could be right. The more I fade that one in, I think those hi-hats are the interesting part. I don't even really need all that ringy snare, so. So now I've got like a 3-channel mix where this one's gonna be the boom, low end. That one's gonna be my shuffle hi-hat kind of thing on the high end. And the whole mid-range is going to be right here. I don't know. Boom. And that turnaround with that crash. I love it. Yeah, I think you could be right. The quantized one could be tighter. So what did we talk about? How did we get here? What were we doing? Well, when we started, Ableton was at 120 BPM, didn't know what tempo this remix was going to be at, and I had this audio file that was just like this. So the first thing we did, and this is really useful for anybody who's working on any device, you don't need push or controllers or anything. On the metronome, I put the M key, so I could easily turn it on and off and check my warping. I put tap tempo on the T key so that I could listen to the audio and tap the metronome in, or tap the tempo in, which gets you pretty close. You can see right here, it's like going from 99 to 101. And now I got my metronome on. Well, the metronome is not lined up, but I don't want to do the mouse and I don't want to type numbers. So I put Z and X on the phase nudge, which lets me have a keyboard key by hand to match the metronome to the groove. Let me do that one more time. Metronome's a little too fast. So I got a way to control it. Slow that metronome down. And the really important thing about live that I want you to remember, when you're pushing these controls, you're changing the speed of the metronome. You're not speeding up this track because it's not warped. All right, so anytime something is unwarped, you're not affecting this audio file at all. It's like you're changing Ableton to move around it. It's like kind of like if there was a car in the middle of a parking lot and you're painting lines to fit around where the car is parked. It's kind of like that. I don't know if that's a good analogy, but that's what it's all about. And then after you have it warped, so we played the track, I tapped the tempo, I found the BPM, I realized it was 100 BPM. Secret clue, most electronic music is on an integer value. It's usually not in between BPM, so it's going to be like something like 101 or 100 or something. And they're almost always even in groups of 5. So we did that. We turned on the metronome, warp the track, zoom in, zoom in, zoom in a million times, zoom in, and make sure your bar 1, beat 1 is actually where the audio file starts. You could drop a warp marker, right click, set 1.1.1 here, which means when Ableton starts playing back this audio file, you're going to hear the metronome click right there. Another secret tip here is that these numbers in the line above the audio file are showing you exactly where the metronome is going to beep. Beep, 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 like that. So as you're taking audio chunks and moving them around, it's kind of like saying, when do I want to hear this? I want to hear it on that beep. And you move it like that. Now, since this was electronic music, I knew it was going to have a totally constant tempo. It's not a live drummer. It's not a marching band. It's not any of that. So I only needed a couple warp markers to get the whole audio file to come in on the beat. So we can play it. Metronome is clicking. It stays in the groove. And then after that, I went to the other drum beats and did kind of the same thing to find the tempo and get the beats hitting where the metronome is hitting. Because basically what we're doing is, if you have all your audio files matching the same like hits or beats or metronome clicks, they're all going to line up together. I mean, maybe that's obvious, but that's pretty much what we're doing. And once you got that, you can just bring in all kinds of layers and go to town with your mix plugins, with your channel strips. Oh, Andy, you said you made a better track in 3 loops than I did in 3 weeks. I got lucky. I don't know what to say. I like this track 4 though, right? These 2 loops right here, I might do something with that. So let me know if you have any more questions. This is about a half-an-hour workshop. Oh no, it's 38 minutes. Whoa, I'm trying to keep these down to 45 minutes so people on YouTube can watch them. And do I want you on YouTube all day? No, I want you to get something really useful out of this, open Ableton, and actually do it yourself. And so speaking of that, yesterday we did a channel strip workshop that was really cool. I put a whole bunch of Ableton stock plugins together. I showed you how to use them on all different channels in the mix and made a mix with a before. At the end of the lesson, you could hear the before and after version of using this one channel strip effects rack on every track in the mix. And it was like night and day. So what I did was I uploaded this to the member site in the free presets area. Let me go in and show you where to grab it. If you have not played around here before, this is the member site. And it's got this little welcome video that tells you what's going on. And it's free to use. You don't need a credit card to sign up. And free resources is the place to start. So when you get up here, you can click learn more if you want. Let's do that. So learn more. Go in here. There's Steve with lightning bolts coming out of his head. And what we want to get to is this free presets module right there. You see how it's kind of grayed out because we're not signed in yet. So I'm going to sign in. We have a new updated sign in area so you can stay on that same page and do your sign in at gmail.com. Sign in. This is what it looks like when you have your free users account. Now I'm in free resources. All these modules are unlocked all the way down the side. Resources for raw beginners are kind of cool, but we're going to go to free presets. This has Ableton instruments, effects racks, channel strips, stuff like that. And what's up on top of here? Universal channel strip. That's what it looks like. And I mapped the macro controls. Check it out. Utility gain, width, high pass filter, the gate threshold, the compressor threshold, EQ scale, limiter gain. What do those do? What does that look like? What's that all about? You go down here, you click that, you download it. 9 kilobytes, it's so small. It's like the smallest, it's like a text file. And you take that and grab it on and drag it onto an Ableton track literally right away. I should have done this first, actually, instead of putting on that, high pass filter. User library, presets, audio effects, audio effect rack. Where is it? It starts with the letter C. Channel strip, mix a texture. I'm going to drag that onto my drum loop and delete that auto filter. What does this do? Let's check it out. Okay, we're on this track. So, device, utility gain. Oh, gotta be on that one. So if that beat was not coming in loud enough, I could raise up the gain. And check out what's happening over here on the power switch. This macro knob turns the whole utility plugin off and on. So if you don't want to use it, you just leave it down and it doesn't do anything. Same thing with the high pass filter. Let's roll in some, oh no, we have utility width. Oh my God, Steve. Let's widen out this stereo loop a little bit. So I turn on the plugin, maybe give it a dB. Do I like mono? I don't think so. Let's widen that out, especially since I'm using the low end from track 2. I don't need the low end in this beat. Now we go to macro number 3, high pass filter. The macro knob turns on the device. So if you don't want to use the high pass filter, you bypass, leave it off. If you do want to use it, roll up, listen to how much you need. Maybe let's hear the other beat and decide. And remember yesterday, a lot of drum beats have something kind of nasty around 600. So I could use the high pass filter and get ready to cut that out. Right around there. Now what happens if we get the gate going on? Oh. Talk about breakbeats, right? Damn. That's nasty. Now let's compress. Threshold and gain go together, so the threshold is going to grab the gain reduction. Makeup gain is going to bring it up. Now, I'm not going to go crazy with EQing, but I want to point out that I preset some EQ settings in there. The knob is going to turn the rack on and off, and then as you turn it up, it's on the EQ scale with a couple of preset frequencies. I thought that would be a cool way to make it easy to use. And then as needed, you can go in, grab your frequencies, and tune them into exactly what your track is doing. Finally, limiter gain on off with the knob. Add a couple of dB and smash it up into that ceiling. And then since we added a bunch of gain, let's roll this back down. Now that's not quite the right way to do that limiter. Let's A-B. And that's how easy it is. A couple of simple plugins, you know, stereo, working with the frequency, working with the dynamics, and the beat is a totally different thing. What I liked about this, the purple beat here was the cymbals, the crash, the high frequencies. That's what what makes that beat really, really work for me. I didn't love that low end. It was kind of like moof, like moof, moof. So I'm happy to cut out the lows. And just in technical terms, all these plugins are really only doing two things. It's either frequency or timing, right? Utility gain is about volume and stereo width. High pass filter, that's about frequency. Gate is about timing, chopping out little pieces. Compressor, it's about timing, like volume over time. EQ8 is about frequency. Limiter is about volume. I like to think about the most simple things possible. So like we're chopping up the beat in a couple of ways. If I want to fit these two beats together, they can't play at the same time. So I either have to use them at two different parts of the song and use them both in their full complete range, or I got to find a way to make them fit together. So I'll chop out some of the frequency on this one. They both have little gaps where the timing comes together. And now they complement each other to make something that we can listen to that sounds like music. So I'm gonna let that play. Get back over here to Cameraland. Hi. Go to the free resources, sign up, get the free presets, grab the channel strip, start using it on your tracks. Let me know how you like it. I think it's going to help because it's so damn easy. The knobs are right there to dial it in. And once you have those, you can just decide, oh yeah, I need to tweak these little frequencies here, move the EQ points, decide what my high pass filter is going to be doing on that sound, and that's it. So that's what's going on. And also, I want to say a special thank you to everybody for giving me feedback on the graphics that I'm designing for the 74 strategies thing. That comes from this book. And a little plug is we're going to start in about a week where I'm going to take chapters from this book, teach them live, and make them into hands-on Ableton projects, session lessons that you can download and do the lessons in live. This is like a cookbook for me. This isn't really a book that you sit down and read it from start to finish. It's not like a mystery story or something. It's like a cookbook. If you don't have the book or if you haven't grabbed it yet, you see that there's stuff to actually do where they're talking about what it looks like in Ableton, the theory of why something is changing. Why does it help you start a beat? How does it help you finish a beat? How does it help you make progress in the middle? We're going to look at all those things. And instead of, like for me, the cookbook, whenever I'm reading a cookbook, it gets totally messed up in the kitchen because I got it in the kitchen and I'm looking at it and I'm like, oh, I'm trying to cook, and then I'm chopping stuff and looking at it. I don't actually like reading cookbooks. I like eating. I like cooking. I like being in the kitchen. I don't want to hold the physical book. And I feel the same way about Ableton. Dennis DeSantis did a great thing to write this book, but where is the book stand in my studio, right? If I actually want to do this exercise, am I going to be here? Is it going to be here? Like where do you actually put the book? Well, we're going to make hands-on interactive Ableton projects. So you can open Ableton, you'll see the name of the lesson, some audio instructions that tell you what's going on, some examples with automation, like an effects rack like we were just doing with automation to show you what's going on. I'll tell you why. And then you do the exercises and you make some music, you get some ideas. And you're not going to be making my music. It's not going to be like, oh, this is my idea that you have to use. It's going to be like a little seed, like a little spark. And then I'll say something like, hey, take this, add something, drop in some more loops, make a track, change the tempo, make a track, change the bass line notes, make a track, whatever. So that's what it's all about. That's coming up in about a week. Does anybody want to see the preview? I want to show you the preview. How about that? Member site. Is it in view? Oh, no preview. I guess you don't get to see the preview right now. Sorry. I started a little like, what do you call it? A mock-up product, but I set it to invisible, so it's not visible publicly yet. I'll show you that later this week. It's going to be pretty basic. It's going to be in the member site with, never mind. We'll get to that later. I don't want to talk about it all day. I'm going to get out of here for right now. Thanks for watching, everybody. Thanks for hanging out. I'm glad you like this lesson. This is fun for me, too. I like teaching the basics, even when I've done it before, because you always come across something new. There's more we could do with warping, but this is enough for today. So I'll see you next time. Let me know if you have any questions. And broadcast. Beep.